Hi, how you doing? It's Russell. Welcome to this third and final video in this series on making a fermented sandwich. We're going to be making the bread, the fermented flax bread. The main event, I think, in a lot of ways. So take a look at this bread. This is bread that's going to be made in a loaf. It's very unusual to find this in raw food. It's going to cut like a loaf. It's soft. It's got a crust. All the good things that a good bread should have. So let's get into it. So the first step is to ferment our flaxseed. Now this is going to provide extra nutrition because it's fermented, but also it's going to give the bread a little bit of a spongier, lighter feel because it's got that fermented, aerated ingredient in there. So to ferment the flaxseed, we're going to need to go over to the blender and we're going to pour some water in. Then we're going to go in with some salt. And then our starter, our fermenting agent in this case, is going to be miso, which gives a beautiful flavour. And you can see this is kind of like a yellow, orange, or sometimes it's called white miso. It's a sweeter miso rather than a dark brown rice miso or a bouillon miso. So you're looking for a lighter miso, and then we're going to put in our all-important ground flax seeds. And we're using golden flax here. I just really prefer the flavour of golden flax to brown flax. We're going to get that blended up. Shouldn't take too much work. And then we're going to pour that into a sterilised glass jar. So again, the sterilisation can just be hot boiling water into the jar. Make sure it's got a clip top available on it to close it and seal it down. And then we're going to place that into a warm place in your house. So as you can see here, we're putting it on top of the dehydrator. Perfect if you've got a dehydrator that's running. Inside the dehydrator is a little bit too warm, but if you've got a warm cupboard, maybe where a gas boiler is or something like that, so just warmer than normal room temperature. Now, if you're in a very hot country where it's very hot, especially in the summer, we're looking at just a room that is not air conditioned. And then what you'll find is after about 10 to 15 hours, so the warmer the room you're putting it in, the less time it will need. So you want to go and check back on it. But this is what you're looking for after 10 to 15 hours. You've got this kind of gelatinous mixture that's fermented. It's going to taste a little bit zingy, and that means it's ready to go. Now we're ready for the rest of the ingredients for this bread. So we're going to take some courgette or zucchini. We're going to peel those. Now, if you don't mind, or if you actually want green bread, you don't have to peel them. But we want to keep we made the decision to keep the bread a fairly neutral colour. So we're peeling them, and then we're going to do a rough chop on those into the Vitamix. And then you want some soaked buckwheat. So you can actually, these have just been soaked 20, 25 minutes, 30 minutes even, and then completely just rinsed. You'll get a gelatinous kind of mucilaginous, is that right? Is that a word? Slimy film on them. So just rinse and rinse and rinse in a sieve until you get rid of that film, and then your soaked buckwheat are ready to use. You can go the extra mile and you can sprout them for a couple of days. I've got a video that I'll link up on this page to show you how to sprout buckwheat. Not completely necessary, but can add a little bit of extra nutrition as I understand it. So we're going to use those buckwheat, pop those in, and then we need a fat for this bread. So we're going to go in with some almond butter. You could switch it up. You could maybe do pumpkin seed butter, or you could do sunflower seed butter. And then we're going to follow that up with some cold pressed oil. So really good high quality olive oil is great here. Next, we've powdered up some nutritional yeast. This is going to give the bread a really umami, moreish flavour. Now, if you're not into nutritional yeast, you can just leave this out. And then we've got some salt to taste. You can just use the exact amount in the ingredients if you like. And by the way, I'm not giving you the amounts on these videos because we have got the downloadable PDF recipes. It's a lot easier than having to try to write down things as I'm saying them. So just follow the recipe. With salt, it can be quite a personal thing, so you can always do it a little bit more to taste at the end. If you're very sensitive to salt, then feel free to just do maybe half the salt and taste it at the end and see how you like it. Because you can always add, but you can't take away, right? Next, we're going to add in some garlic and some onion powder, and then we want some sweetness, so we're going to use either maple syrup or honey goes really nicely in this. And then the acidity for this recipe is going to be some apple cider vinegar. If you can get a raw apple cider vinegar, so much the better. And then we're going to add in some of that beautiful fermented flax from step one. I say beautiful, it looks a little bit snotty when you put it in, but it's nice. It's going to add a great flavour actually. It's going to add that fermented element and give the bread a bit more fluffiness. So blend that all together, get it nice and smooth, and then once it's smooth, we're going to add in the psyllium. Now the psyllium, the longer you leave it in the mixture over the course of a few minutes, it's going to firm up and bind to the mixture. That's why we leave it until we've got everything smooth, and then we put it in as the last ingredient, give it a blend, and that will bind up, as I said, over the next few minutes. All right, now we've got our wet ingredients done. We're going to start working on the dry ingredients. So we've got a bowl here with some ground almonds, and then to that we're going to add some coconut flour. Now you might just need to run your hand through that to get rid of any lumps that are in there, and then we're ready to add our wet ingredients from the Vitamix. So it's still pretty runny at this stage. Start to mix that in with your hands, so wet and dry ingredients together. You're going to have, obviously everything's going to firm up a little bit, and it's going to be able to form into a ball of dough. And if it's not happening immediately, don't worry too much, just leave it for a few minutes to let that psyllium bind everything together until you can form it into a dough ball. Whilst that's doing, we're going to take a bread tin. Now you can just form these by hand, you actually don't need a bread tin at all, but it's kind of fun to use a bread tin. So if you're using this tin, line it, cut a strip of baking parchment so that you can have little handles to remove the bread when it's dehydrated. And then you're going to wet your fingers. A little bit of water on the fingers helps stop the dough from sticking to your fingers, and you'll be able to mold it in there a lot easier. Okay, so take a good chunk of dough, mold it into a rough ball in your hands, and then into the bread tin. And just use your fingers to push that down into the bread tin. Don't have to push it down hard, you just want it to go to all of the edges so it takes on the shape of the bread tin. Smooth it over with a little bit of water if that helps, and then you might even want to top it with some of these sesame seeds. All right, that's going to go into the dehydrator for its first dehydrating. Once it's dehydrated enough to hold its form, you're going to remove it from the baking tin and then pop it back into the dehydrator to finish off. And then you just have this amazing, beautiful raw loaf of bread. You're going to have a couple of them actually, so this mixture is going to make a couple of the ones that you see, the size that you see in this video. And just look how that slices, just beautiful. Now you can here, as we're doing, you can individually dehydrate these pieces as well. I actually just like them straight out of the dehydrator as they are. But if you want to dry them off a little bit more, just 20 minutes, 30 minutes, even an hour back in the dehydrator will firm them up. And now we are ready to plate the sandwich. So you're going to take one of those pieces of bread, and then you're going to take a good generous amount of the cheese, pop that onto the slice of bread, spread it down a little bit, and then we're ready for our beetroot slices. So we'll take some of these slices. What we've done is cut halfway up into the beetroot slice here and turned it so it sits up nicely in the sandwich. It's a really nice way of doing it. Pop as many on there as you like, and then we're going to take another piece of bread, some more of that beautiful cheese, and then you've got your sandwich topper. Fantastic. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel as we post regularly, and you'll get notified of new videos. I'll see you in the next one.